Recently, I was doing a live, and a lady reached out to me afterwards, and she said, "Dave, your infomercial blessed my life at an important time." And she says, "I started my eBay business because of you, and now I'm a very successful eBay seller." She told me her numbers, which were really amazing, and I teach women how to be successful on eBay now.
Wow.
And I was like, that's even more better. That's even more better. That's even more exciting to go, oh, there's a ripple effect. Like you can leave a legacy. You can not only impact the world right now with your information, with your course, but that can have a second generation and a third generation, and you can leave the world a better place.
Yes.
Because of what you did, because of putting your knowledge into a course and helping people with it.
Well, I have to say, I am so excited to interview this individual coming up. He is quite the master and certainly a friend to entrepreneurs. My next guest is Dave Espino. He's known as the Info Boss. And he started as an entrepreneur at the ripe old age of 7. And he has sold in excess of $140 million in how-to video courses. So that in itself is just a crazy big number. He was a star of a national infomercial for 11 years. And besides all of that, he's a husband and a father, and he is an avid skateboarder. And I've seen photos of those ramps and pipes that you do. Oh my gosh. I mean, you are one heck of a daredevil. And as I mentioned, he's a true friend to entrepreneurs, helping people start their business. So welcome, Dave. Like I said, I'm so excited to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's just kind of funny when you say it that way. So I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. This guy skateboards.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to ask you about that in a bit too. No, yeah, for sure. So I want to start off and I want to talk about like, how did you start in business and how did you become known as the Info Boss?
That's a long, well, my whole story is a long story. So, but I'll just start at the beginning. When I was 7 years old, my parents started selling at flea markets in Southern California. They were first generation Americans from Mexico. They had blue collar skills. They were, my mom was a seamstress. She worked in the LA garment district. And my dad was a welder, and he used to build trucks, basically, commercial trucks. And so they wanted more out of life. And so they started, my uncle actually was, this is a funny story. My uncle was selling tires at the flea market.
Oh, wow.
Like new tires. He used to work for Goodyear. And I guess through that association, they thought, well, we could sell something at the flea market too. And so they went down to LA to the wholesale district, bought a bunch of stuff, wholesale, initially toys. And then, they brought their kids along, which, I don't know if that's forced labor, child labor laws or whatever, but I didn't know any different. So yeah, at 7 years old, I was there with my parents selling at flea markets in Southern California. And it was a very different childhood than most kids, right? And so that's how I got my start. But as far as the Info Boss thing, I came up with that because I wanted to have an identity for people that want to create their own course. And this was at a Funnel Hacking Live, ClickFunnels event, where it just came to me. It's funny how these ideas come to me at these events. Like you're so on at these events, and it was like basically the idea was I want to teach people how to sell their info like a boss. And so that's where the name Info Boss came around. And now it's the name of my LLC, and we're about to build a giant online course program for people to really put their knowledge out there. And so it's funny that the name germinated maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but now I'm going to be seeing it come to fruition. So it's very exciting. And sometimes we have to kind of wait, right? We have to wait for those dreams to germinate and to fertilize them and make sure that they grow.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think first off, when you're in a group of like really like-minded entrepreneurs, it always makes it a little bit easier. Just things start to bloom from
Hmm.
that. And then of course it has to be the right time for business, right?
Right, right. The timing is right. And, I can't tell you how many great ideas I gotten from attending these events. And just like as you're listening, I'm also like I'm on a separate track taking notes of how can I apply this to my life, right? And these ideas just flow so well. So that's one of many reasons that events are really a great thing to participate in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me about your infomercial. What type of lessons did you learn? Because you were on an infomercial for a long time. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is, what's interesting is I think life comes full circle, right? Because
Yep.
I remember watching you on an infomercial
Really.
before I knew you. And I don't know how many times that has happened to me where I've seen somebody on TV or whatever, and they end up becoming my friend or whatever.
Huh.
It's such a full circle moment. Yes.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I got very excited about the internet when I discovered eBay. Now, most people know that I collect these little toy cars, these Hot Wheels cars from the 60s, because I grew up playing with them. And I already had a little side business buying and selling these Hot Wheels cars. I would buy entire collections from the original owners, and I would keep the ones I wanted and sell the rest. And so I used to do that at an antique toy store in Fullerton, California. And then because eBay hit the collector world first, right? The collectors were first to get onto eBay. So I kept hearing my collector friends saying, "Oh, I got this car on eBay. I found this car on eBay." I'm like, "What is this eBay thing? I've never heard of this thing." This is way back in 1998.
When it was starting,
Yeah,
right?
when it was just starting. And so my friend showed me eBay, and I was just like, oh man, this is like the future. Like you could sell anything to anybody in the whole world. It took my little flea market seller brain, and it just exploded it, because I'm like, wow, at the flea market, or even my parents eventually had their own store. At the store, I'm limited to just the people who can walk in here. But on eBay, I can sell to the whole world. So I started doing that. And I also got excited about selling my information back then, 1998. So back then, we couldn't deliver video very easily over the internet. We still had 56K modems. Uh,
Back in the day, I remember
yeah,
that.
it was difficult, really technologically, it was difficult to deliver video. So the only thing, the extent of where we had gotten technologically was ebooks. So I wrote an ebook, and I bought an early course that I can point to that course as changing my life. It was called Insider Secrets to Marketing Your Business on the Internet. And it was
Okay.
by a young man named Corey Rudel, who had done amazingly well. And this course was not a video course. And remember, we couldn't really deliver video. So it was two thick binders. They were like this thick, two thick binders that came in the mail. They had the thud factor, right? You get them and they're like, man, this is a lot. And I just poured through that stuff because I knew I could become a millionaire on the internet, right? So, so I poured through that stuff, and I followed it religiously, and I started marketing my ebook that way. And from that, I got my ebook to making like 3,000 a month in passive income, which was really cool. I was
Especially
making
back at that time in 1998. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot, but what I liked more about that it was a good amount was totally passive. I'd wake up every morning, I'd go to my computer, I'd see how many sales I made overnight while I was asleep. Like literally the dream, of internet marketers, make money while you sleep. I was making money while I slept. And that's when the light bulb just went off. But the point is, I was so busy marketing that ebook that one day I got an email from an infomercial production company, and it was a very innocuous email. It was very vague. Didn't even ask. In fact, they asked, "Are you an affiliate of Corey Rudel's?"
Hmm.
Or no, "Are you affiliated with Corey Rudel?" And I'm like, I said, "No, I'm not affiliated with him, but I am an affiliate of his because I used to market his course." That was a weird question and a weird way to open a conversation. But then
Right.
I checked their signature line and it said their production company name. I looked them up and like, oh, they produce infomercials. Oh, they've produced these business opportunity infomercials. And then, long story short, we ended up, I didn't know this at the time, but out of 100 people that they were looking at, they chose me to be their expert. And
Wow.
so
And that was only, they were looking only at eBay people there.
eBay experts,
Wow.
because
Okay.
eBay was exploding. I mean,
Mhm.
it was just those who maybe weren't there or weren't old enough at the time might not realize how worldwide and how
Mhm.
explosive eBay became in its early days. It was just, it was everywhere. It was on all the news stations. Look at this funny piece of toast that sold on eBay for $20,000. It was like a mania, right? And so it was so hot, so big. It was the right timing, and they wanted to capitalize on this eBay phenomenon. So they found me, and that started an 11-year journey. Which, if you think about it, if you know anything about the world of infomercials, most infomercials last 18 months, and then that's it. That's the end of the campaign. And ours went for 11 years. And so I can't, I can't take full credit for that. I really believe the Lord had a lot to do with that.
Mhm.
But I also um, learned so much in that experience. I learned a ton because in those 11 years, we produced 9 different shows. We would try to refresh the show every year. And every show was scripting, persuasive video scripting and the right shots to put in and the right uh, presentation to do on camera, and so much that went into it. The testimonials that we had to find, that could bolster and show proof that it was a great program, and so on. But the biggest compliment to me of that whole infomercial, yeah, it made me a lot of money, and I was, it was very successful financially speaking, and it was amazing. It was an amazing journey. The biggest compliment to me was when people said, I bought Dave's course because he seems so genuine.
Mhm.
And to me, that was better than, I don't know if it was better than the money I made, but it was way
Right up
up
there.
there, right up there, because I was like, well, that's because I was being genuine. I was telling the truth. I was being truthful that this opportunity can change your life. And so to me, that was a really awesome compliment. And I think that's part of the reason that the show was successful for so long is I was being genuinely honest and genuinely excited about how this could change their life. And that hasn't changed. I've always been an evangelist for entrepreneurialism for people, and I've always wanted people to succeed. I'd rather cheer somebody on that's doing great, doing even better than me than just about anything else, because I know what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur. And so when I see somebody succeeding, hey, good for you, man. It's a blessing that you've been able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, just from my experience, I think my feeling is not only are you genuine, you're very authentic, but you truly care about the entrepreneur and helping people become successful. And I think in your infomercial, it really showed through that that's who you are. So, and the funny thing is, I actually did a search looking to see, kind of the history of entrepreneur of infomercials, and you were right up there with Ron Popeil, if you know who Ron Popeil is, as
Oh,
far
yeah.
as, because he was on for a very long time. So, but that says a lot about you that you were able to sustain it for so long, and obviously, sold a lot from it and helped probably a lot of people because, some people, it's easier for people to get that information in one place
Mhm.
and be able to absorb it and then build their business that way rather than trying to do research in a bunch of different places.
Yeah. Yeah. And recently I was doing a live, and a lady reached out to me afterwards and she said, Dave, your infomercial blessed my life at an important time. And she says, I started my eBay business because of you. And now I'm a very successful eBay seller. She told me her numbers, which were really amazing. And I teach women how to be successful on eBay now.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, That's even more better. That's even more
Yeah.
better. That's even more exciting to go, oh, there's a ripple effect. Like you
Yeah.
can leave a legacy. You can not only impact the world right now with your information, with your course, but that can have a second generation and a third generation, and you can leave the world a better place because
Yes.
of what you did, because of putting your knowledge into a course and helping people with it.
So funny that you said leave the world in a better place, because my outro for my podcast, one of my last lines is, and make a big difference in the world, so
Nice.
because it's all for good, right?
Yeah,
And just think about it. You basically almost threw a stone in, right? And you created all this ripple effect, that's affecting generations. I mean, so gosh, that's got to feel really, really good.
it does. It really does. I practically I live for that, and I live for the success stories.
Mhm.
When somebody a lady once at one of our shoots, we were shooting the testimonials, and she just came up and she was practically in tears talking about how it changed her life. And she left me in tears. She's just like, you have no idea what this has done for us and how it's changed our lives. And she almost got a little bit embarrassed that she was getting so teary-eyed, but I was getting teary-eyed.
You're making me
And
teary-eyed.
and she walked away, like mid-sentence, she walked away, I think, because she was a little embarrassed. And I had to go into a separate room and I wanted to savor the moment, and also just feel the awe of that
Yeah.
moment of like, wow, whoa, I was doing this because I wanted to make a lot of money and take care of my family, right? I had no idea there's these other levels of blessing when you can help and bless others,
Oh my gosh.
of
Yes.
of feeling, wow, I really made an impact in this family's life.
Mhm.
It was a moment that cemented me into the information product business and to teaching people and courses. That moment, there's your first moment when you make your first sale and you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, it works. This is amazing. It works. Somebody out there bought my information. This information that came from my brain, my experience, somebody bought it. That's your first moment, right?
Mhm.
But then when you start getting success stories and testimonials and seeing that not only did it work and you're going to be taken care of, that's the income part, but also you're making an impact, the income and the impact at the same time. There's no business like this. I mean, there really isn't. There's all kinds of businesses out there, all kinds of work you could do, but very few types of work where the impact is so real and easily achieved. The impact is easily achieved, you know? And so that's why I'm just locked into this business. I'm locked into the information and the online course business for life.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have made not only a difference in those people's lives, right? But also the lives of their family. I mean, it
Yeah.
just goes down generation. So it should give you something that you should be really proud of. You
Yeah.
certainly
It
are
is.
known for being a friend to the entrepreneur, as well as what you've been able to put out there. So let me ask you a question. You have a book called The Most Perfect Business. Is that what
Oh
it's
yeah.
called? Yes, The
The
World's
world's
Most
most
Perfect.
perfect.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what it's called. Yes. Tell me about that. I actually have read it,
Oh,
but tell
awesome.
me.
Well, I was struggling with explaining to people how amazing the info product and the online course business is. I struggled with that because I was like, when you find something so good and you're wanting to tell the whole world about it, but you don't want to come off like some kind of crazy person. This happens a lot when people first get into like some kind of network marketing business or something. They come off really, crazy, right? Um,
But aren't we as
and
entrepreneurs a little bit on the crazy side anyway?
we got to be. And so the normal people can't understand this. But
Right.
my goal was to go, okay, gosh, I know so much about this online course business. That is awesome. If you just evaluated it in comparison to any other business you could compare it to, it would be legions ahead of any other business as a business model. And so my idea was to put it all into a book, like to really explain the whole thing, throw the whole, like a fire hose of information and reasoning why the online course and the info product business is amazing. So that's what I did. And that was the goal with that book, was to showcase the online course business, showcase why it's so amazing and what all the benefits are of it. And the main one we just talked about is income and impact. Mm-hmm. That you can make an amazing income while also having an amazing impact on the world. That's at the core. But if you look at it just as a business model, strictly as a business model, there's very few businesses that can compete with it.
Right.
So that's why I wrote that.
Absolutely. And I meant to write this down, but I think you have written, is it 33 courses? How many courses do you have? Because I saw this figure.
Yeah, and it keeps changing. So depending on where you are on the internet, the number is going to be different. For a long time, I thought I was at 60 courses.
Oh my goodness.
And then Russell Brunson of ClickFunnels, one day he sent me a Voxer message and he goes, "Hey, Dave, I'm wondering if you'd be interested in teaching, in creating a course for us about how to create courses." And I'm like, "Where have you been? I've been waiting for you to,
That's
I'd
right,
love
to
do
call.
this. Are you kidding me? Who wouldn't want to work with Russell, right?" So, so I got on a call with him and he says, "Yeah, because I'm going to be pitching you as one of the bonus elements of an offer that we're doing." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "And I'm going to be pitching it in 2 hours."
Oh my goodness. Wow. Go, he didn't give you much notice, did he?
So you need a decision. Okay, well, let's say yes. We'll figure out the details later, right?
Right.
And so, 2 hours later, I'm sitting here in my office and I'm watching him pitching. This was for the promotion called Build Your Brand, and it was to promote mastermind.com. And then he gets to a part where he says, "Well, it's one thing, if you want to learn how to build courses, learn how to create courses, but what if we showed you one of the best people that can teach you how to create these courses?" And I'm like, this is crazy. Because it all happened in 2 hours, right? Like I'm like, right? from saying yes to suddenly he's pitching me. And I forget.
But it's true. I have to say it's true.
Well, I appreciate that. What was funny though is when he asked from the beginning to the 2 hour when he was actually pitching, I'm like, okay, I've been saying 60 courses, but I've been saying that for a long time. How many have I actually created? So I went through all my archives, went back, like information products I created long ago, and I added them all up, and it turned out at that time anyway, it was something like 83.
Oh my goodness.
Courses that I've created. Now in there, I also include information products, which I think is a little subset of a course. Like people think of a course maybe as like 5, 6, 10 hours or whatever. But some of my courses are more like info products, which are an hour or an hour and a half. They're short courses, but they're still courses. So anyway, at that time, he went ahead and he went with 60 because that's what I had told him. But I added it up and I was like, wow, 83. And now I'm up to like 87. So
wow. I bet you're going to break 100.
Yeah. It's not a goal per se, but it's just a natural consequence of it's what I do. So, at some point it'll happen.
Well, let me ask you a question about that then. So how do you find a good idea to do a course on?
That is such a great question, because what I've learned, Kathy, is if you find a super hot, in-demand topic, it makes selling, it makes customer service, it makes fulfillment, it makes everything so much easier. If you create a course on a topic that's not in much demand, then it's a struggle. The whole process is a struggle. Everything is tough. So one of the reasons I've created so many courses is I belong to a community of people who are into making money online. It's a community I've been a part of since the beginning, and used to be like a internet forum where people would learn about internet marketing techniques and things like that. And so these people are always looking for the newest, hottest strategy, newest loophole, newest traffic strategy, newest way to like do something. So they're looking for a new strategy, the new hack, the new loophole, basically new, right?
Right.
So, and I happen to just be into looking, like finding that stuff. I'm like a marketing tinkerer. I like to tinker and test new things, right? So anyway, so I'm always finding things, and I was like, wow, this would make a great product. We call it a product. And so I will often launch it into this community, and we have great success with that. But more recently, I've been getting big into crypto information products, crypto courses, because I personally am into it.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent launch that we did was amazingly successful. We launched it December 30th. And in the first 2 or 3 weeks, it did 50,000 in sales.
Wow.
Of an $11 product.
Oh my goodness. So that was a
very,
lot of sales.
Yeah,
then.
a very inexpensive $11 front end product. The reason is that we had partnered with a gentleman who's an expert at something called crypto yield farming. And he has $1,000 course, $997. So we offered this front end product for 11 something with a couple of upsells, made about 50,000 on that, helped them learn about yield farming, registered all those people into our partner's live webinar, where he offered his $997 course. And in that, so launched December 30th, had his webinar January 14th, and did about 160,000 in sales in that
time frame, in that short
periods.
time frame.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So 160 of his, 50 of ours, take out 10 for refunds, and we did roughly $200,000 in sales in
Wow.
the beginning
That's
of the year,
in
which is
3 months or so.
technically in about a month. In
Wow.
about a month. Yeah. Crazy. And that's one of the biggest successes I've had in creating a course. But going back to what your question was, it's primarily because we had an incredibly hot topic, incredibly hot positioning, like the offer itself of yield farming. The idea of it is you find a place to store your crypto, and because you're providing liquidity in a crypto market, you're able to earn 20%, 50%, 100%, 300% on your money. That's hot. That's new. That's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's passive. It's literally passive. You just got to know where to put your crypto, what buttons to click, and you start earning. That's a very enticing and exciting proposition to anybody, right? It doesn't have to be somebody who's into crypto. It could be an entrepreneur, or it could be just a normal person who's not an entrepreneur, who's like, wait, what? You could get 30% on your money, and the bank's paying me like 0.5%.
Right.
It's super hot. So to the point, because it's so hot, because the offer is so exciting, because it's so amazing, and enticing, and let's add, because it's real. Okay. Not just be like making promises.
Which of course is important. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And you'd be amazed how many people promote stuff that's not real, or it's just really bad. Or I buy a lot of this stuff, a lot of these info products, because sometimes they don't give you all the detail of what they're offering. They just give you like what you're going to get. And then you get in there and you find out either it's way too complicated of a process, or you have to have like, I was about to say, you have to have like these fairy godmothers looking over you for it to all actually magically work.
For everything to work. Yes.
Right. But I always learn from these things, even if they're selling something that's not real or not realistic, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the point I'm getting at is, because it was so hot, because we could position it so well, we did amazingly well. And we're continuing to promote his product as a back end offer to our front end courses. And so, it's part of the magic of info products. I'm not the expert on yield farming like he is, but I could be an affiliate and I could make 50% of his course,
right?
Because that's a very common and expected affiliate commission in the info product space. He can easily afford to pay 50% because he only created the course once, and now it's just time to sell it. And if you can bring in a partner that can sell a bunch of it, he's happy, and we're happy too.
Right. Right. So there's a lot to be said with partnering, right? With individuals that have the
Yes.
knowledge, and then you can go ahead and you can put the course together.
Yeah. I had to learn that the hard way. Early on, I thought, oh, I've got to be like my own boss. And I thought my own boss meant do it myself. No collaboration, no partnering. Like, I was kind of very rigid in that idea of being your own boss. And man, I've learned so much. I've gotten so much value. And I think the first part was when I partnered with the infomercial company. There's no way that I, on my own, at that knowledge level back then, could have done 140 million over 11 years. No way. I mean, I wasn't even like, I didn't even have the mind to fathom those numbers.
Right.
But by partnering with them, and they knew what they were doing, and they had very many successes under their belt already, it was doable, So now this campaign, all I did was an information product. Now, info product is basically you go out and you do all kinds of research on a topic and put it into a handy step-by-step flowing teaching. Anyone can do this. And I like to tell people, look, you've already done this. You already created information product when you were in school. The teacher said, go create a paper on this, go research this, do a research paper. And you went out and you researched it. Now, in my day, go to library, right? Little index cards and research these books. But nowadays, just go to Google and you're researching, you're gathering all this information, right? And you're putting it into a logical flow order. Yes, in a paper, you're typing it out. But what's so different from taking that same information, putting it in a PowerPoint and narrating it, presenting it?
Right.
I mean, some of us in school, we even had to present to the class, right? Same idea. You've already done it. So when people get nervous, I don't know if I can create a course. You've already done it. You've already created a course. You've created this. You've done this many, many times. Just because we name it something different, the process is still the same exact thing. So that's what I did. I created a information product of introducing people to yield farming. Anybody can do that. And then we partnered with the expert who's doing amazing with it.
I love how you kind of broke it down to relate it to, something that everybody has done in their life at some time or the other. Because I really believe, and I think I read even in your ebook, that everyone has a superpower. I have the same exact mentality that everyone has something that they're really, really good at. And why not, make some money off of that in some shape or form, whether, you work for someone doing it, or you create a course, you create some information product, and maybe have that passive income, and make money that way.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And what's funny is you said everyone has a superpower. I agree. Sometimes you may not know, however, and it may not be readily clear to you what your superpower is. And sometimes your superpower may be a negative superpower. And this came to mind as you were saying
about this. That. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
This came to mind as you were talking. My wife and I have been binge watching the TV show Monk.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how. I want to know how old that is, because it's so old. They're still using little flip phones in the show, right? But it's a fun show, and it's like, I won't get into the details, but the bottom line is Monk's sidekick is this lady named Sharona. And she has the worst luck with men. Like, she just picks out the worst
guys.
I've
actually seen the show, so yes.
Yeah. And it's a comic relief in the program, right? How she always ends up picking the worst guys. But I was thinking, gosh, even that's a superpower, because if you're
right. I never thought about that.
Yeah, let's say you pick the worst guys all the time, right? You could create a course on what you learned from picking worst guy number one and worst guy number two, and then help people avoid maybe picking the worst mate, worst
That's
partner, whatever.
brilliant. Actually, that is really brilliant.
And it's so funny because all we have to do is we have to think carefully. And when I do my online course training, I have something called a superpower inventory,
Hmm.
and that is a time of just like mental quiet, where you can sit down and think through all of the life experiences you've ever had from like day one all the way to now. And then what we do is we sometimes what we can do is we can piece one experience together with another one. We can add or combine two different experiences to come up with a killer course idea. It's like, oh man, I never thought of that. Wait, my experience in corporate jobs and my experience here with this, I could combine them and I could serve this community, right? So it's thinking beyond just I'm good at one thing.
One thing, that's right.
It's thinking about your whole personality, everything you've been through, not just job experiences, but life experiences. And how can you best, like, pretend your experiences are in a grid, right? You got this grid, and you pick and choose the best pieces of that grid based on who you can serve the best with your life experience. So in the real estate world, there's this term called highest and best use.
Hmm.
Highest and best use of a piece of land. Ironically, we're selling my dad's property. He passed away a few years ago,
Oh,
and we're in the process of selling my dad's property. Maybe that's why it came up. But you could have, for example, just a flat piece of land with nothing on it, but maybe it's zoned for residential apartment buildings. But if you just sell the flat piece of land with nothing on it, it only has X amount of use. If you build a fourplex on it, it's got higher and better use. If you build a 20 unit building on it, it's got much better use. The goal with creating a course, in my opinion, is finding your highest and best use, meaning your highest and best level of service that you can provide to the world. Because, man, if I can provide 20 unit level service to the world, guess what? I'm going to get paid 20 unit worth of value, and I'm going to be able to serve at the highest level possible. Imagine if Tony Robbins just stayed at his first job,
right.
and never realized his max potential of serving the world, right? So what we want to do is realize that max potential. Where can we provide the highest service that will also pay us commensurate with that value that we're giving? So it's about looking at yourself and pushing your value up as to how you can transform people's lives, because that's really what we're doing. We're transforming people's lives.
I love that. I really love that. I think that that's a really fresh take. And I love that exercise as well. Because, like for me, for example, so not only am I a sales expert, I've sold close to $1 billion, but
Wow.
I'm, in my lifetime. And but I'm also a professional actress. So you
Oh,
would
nice.
think that's a real right brain, left brain, really
Mm-hmm.
people sometimes think, wow, they're so different from each other.
Right.
But for me, I have found that it serves me because I'm able to help people, especially in the entrepreneurial space, not only with sales, because
Mm-hmm.
that's my sweet spot, but also how do they present? How do they
Right.
do webinars? How do they do a live? All those things
Mm-hmm.
that you have to do a lot of times, right?
Right.
When you're
Right.
in this space. So, for me, it's been a great mixture, but I love what you said, because I think I might do that same exercise as well and see what other little pieces that I can come up with, to make it even richer
Yeah.
and better.
Yeah. And you never know what will result from that. I think we don't give ourselves enough credit for being multi-dimensional
Mhm.
human beings, looking back at our entire life, looking back at every experience, good and bad, and going, first, of course, not only what can I learn from it, but how can I take that and serve the world with it? And yeah, it's a fascinating thought experiment to really go through that. And the goal, though, my goal for my students is to help them to make the biggest impact and make the biggest income by understanding, hey, you get paid based on the value you put out. And if you put out this amount of value, great, you'll get paid that amount. If you put out Tony Robbins level value, you'll get paid that amount, right?
Right.
And so on. So